Today's hazardous weather graphic showing a, let's see, we'll start with the winter storm watch here for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Yakutat area, that goes into effect late tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening and continues through the night, Thursday night, and through Friday. Otherwise, for tonight, there's a winter storm warning for heavy snow for the Klondike Highway, Haines, up to Skagway for possible heavy snow during the night tonight, and then a snow advisory for Juneau area for snow overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning of several inches. And for the satellite imagery, you can see moisture moving through the panhandle here. A little bit of a break came in, but the next band already shifting into the central part of the southeast coast, spreading rain and snow with it northward. And some areas of snow over along the North Gulf Coast, some snow heavy at times in Yakutat earlier today, but then you can see a break just to the south there moving in. And some of this moisture brought some snow into Kodiak Island during the afternoon hours today, but generally just variable clouds over the Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet area, and less of that as you move west into the clear skies here, northern Bering Sea, much of the western interior into the central interior, variably cloudy skies to clear conditions, including the North Slope and up to the Arctic coast. Some high clouds coming southward out of the Arctic here, spreading into the Bering Strait there. And then you can see the clouds forming here as that cold air moves out over the open Bering Sea water here, bringing snow showers again with the gusty winds to the Alaska Peninsula, Unimak, Unalaska Island areas, St. Paul and St. George, becoming pretty light there for St. Paul Island today. Light snow as that cloud deck starts to thin out some, and then pretty good conditions under higher pressure out over the western Aleutians. Really not much in the way of any storminess, just some scattered mid and high level clouds out here to the west with a weak system there kind of tracking northeastward, or will be tracking northeastward. And otherwise, rolling this through again, not much going on, no big storms. You can see that weak circulation here southeast of Kodiak Island, and just surges of moisture coming into the North Gulf Coast from the south and southwest and then dissipating as they reach the coastline there and not making much headway into the north there. On the chart today, pretty gusty winds over the interior today, especially the higher elevation, seeing winds gusting up 30 to 40 miles an hour out of the east and northeast, creating some areas of blowing snow here over the eastern interior areas, but not too bad conditions there. Weak system here trying to spread some flurries onto the western Arctic coast, but didn't quite make it, or just some lower clouds and flurries at times there from about Wainwright down to maybe Point Lay, possibly, but nothing significant. Mostly clear skies here over the North Slope and the northwest part of the state, picking up a breeze here along the southwest coast, and lighter winds, St. Lawrence Island and the Bering Strait areas. But again, that cold air coming out over the open water of the Bering Sea first picks up the clouds and then the snow, and kind of a persistent snow pattern here, light snow along the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, and then really starting to taper off out toward Adak and Atka, and dry for the western Aleutians. And the southeast coast here, here's that next band of moisture pulling northward during the day, right in this area earlier today, about midday. And areas of snow to the north, snow showers with the more steadier precipitation with this system, or with this feature as it comes northward. And for tonight, we'll turn that into a warm front as this system pushes northeastward here. So we've got a 995 millibar low here, tracking kind of around this system that slides a little farther to the north there, just east of Kodiak Island. It's going to keep Kodiak in the snow and snow showers, and some of that could spread up into southern Cook Inlet. Some light snow possible for the southern Copper River Basin, maybe as far east as Portage. They're getting snow today, probably will continue off and on into the evening, overnight tonight, but not much getting too far to the west. Looks like it'll cut off there right around Alyeska. If not there, definitely it'll cut off at the Chugach Mountains, and so the Matanuska Valley could see a little bit of light snow activity tonight. Otherwise, rain behind this warm front over the panhandle, gusty south and southeast winds, and then heavy snow possible up around the Klondike Highway, as again Haines up to Skagway, with lighter amounts of snow for Juneau. Otherwise dry over the interior, and higher pressure developing here over the western Bering Sea and the stronger center off to the southwest there, just off the chart. And for tomorrow, weak trough trough drops some showers into the western Aleutians. That's about it. No big wind, heavy wind or precipitation at all expected out there. Pretty light, very light winds actually here over the Bering Sea for tomorrow. Much lighter winds along the southwest coast. Still a little breezy with snow showers for the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians, but tomorrow's winds again lighter than today's. And this low tracking slowly now just east of the Fognak Island area there, and that'll keep Kodiak Island in the snow shower pattern, and also some areas of light snow with this trough kind of lifting, trying to push northwestward there, hanging up along the eastern coast. Prince William Sound, chance of snow or snow showers, some of that into the Wrangell Mountains, eastern Copper River Basin. Interior dry, cold with mostly sunny skies from big area here from the northeast all the way down to the southwest coast, and could still see a few sun breaks here over Cook Inlet area possibly, but probably not to the extent we saw today. And again, rain, southern panhandle, mixture precipitation over the northern southeast coast with continued south winds bringing milder temperatures in. And in fact, on Friday, could see some partly sunny skies with temperatures in the mid-40s there. As this front approaches the coast, probably chance of rain increases late in the day for the central and south coast, but may remain to the west till evening. But gale force winds ahead of this front as well push rain and snow up toward the North Gulf Coast. And again, not much precipitation getting to the north or to the west, more likely wrapping into Kodiak Island. Chance of snow showers for the western Alaska Range on the eastern slopes there, mostly from about Rainy Pass southward. And also maybe in the Talkeetnas could be some light snow shower activity. And again, whatever amount falls won't be significant. Cold and dry over the interior, a little milder on Friday than what you'll see tomorrow afternoon, but still well below freezing, in some cases still below zero, especially for the north slope out to the Arctic coast, but rising above zero here in the central interior, and still breezy with snow showers to the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. You can see areas like the Pribilofs, light winds up into the Bering Sea, kind of getting variable, light and variable here up into the northern Bering Sea and Bering Strait, and that condition extends all the way out to the southwest coast. North slope, maybe a few breaks in the clouds on the east side. Dry conditions with light winds up there as well. And for the lows tonight, 5 to 10 below in the Copper River Basin, 10 to 20 below for the Kuskokwim Valley, and 0 to 5 below for the Bristol Bay area. Lows in the mid-20s, Kodiak Island, and anywhere from 5 to 20 for south central Alaska, and lows in the upper 20s, northern Panhandle. In fact, that's Skagway 29. Otherwise, most other areas staying above freezing. Highs tomorrow in the 40s across the southeast coast, near 40 for Yakutat, 32 for Valdez, near 20 in the Copper River Basin, 25 to 32 south central Alaska to Kodiak Island, in the teens for Bristol Bay, 5 to 10 for the Kuskokwim Valley. And for the lows on Friday morning, 5 to 10 below in the Kuskokwim Valley, 10 to 15 below, 5 to 10 below in Bristol Bay. I'm looking at Copper River Basin here. Call it Gulkana, low 3 below. Bristol Bay, 0 to 10. Lows in the mid-20s, Kodiak Island. Mid-20s to the eastern North Gulf Coast. Lows above freezing for the Panhandle, and highs with some sunshine, 40 to 45. Some areas may hit 46, 47, maybe in 48 in some areas. Mid-20s for the Copper River Basin, lower 30s south central Alaska. Still chilly west of the Alaska Range. Mid-30s for Kodiak Island. Up to the north, lows tonight, 25 to 40 below. And for highs tomorrow, right around zero either side here in the central interior. Northern valleys out to the Arctic coast below zero, and 0 to 10 here for the Seward Peninsula and St. Lawrence Island. Lows, call it 15 to 30 below in the interior. And for the highs, a little milder here, 5 to 15 above around Fairbanks area, and either side of zero up toward the Brooks Range, and also the western Arctic coast finally pushing above zero there a little bit, 1 degree, and low teens for the Pribilofs tonight, 20s for the Aleutians, and then the highs tomorrow. 21 for St. Paul, in the 30s, central Aleutians, and upper 20s for the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, mid-20s, lows mid-teens for the Pribilofs, and then the 20s for the...
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Solid IFR here for the Panhandle up to the eastern North Gulf Coast to west of Yakutat, and otherwise look for areas of marginal VFR here with some scattered areas of IFR, especially from Eagle down to the Northway area, Tok, and then the southeast interior areas, Copper River Basin, eastern Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound. Marginal VFR, some scattered areas of IFR. Then that northerly flow out here to the west, continuing IFR here along the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, but not as extensive as it has been, and marginal VFR for the remainder of the Aleutians. Otherwise, northern eastern Bering Sea here, VFR, right on up into the Arctic Ocean, and all the interior here looking pretty good for the morning hours and for afternoon. Still some possible areas of marginal VFR up here north of the eastern Alaska Range, 40-mile country. IFR, eastern North Gulf Coast, northeast Prince William Sound, into the Wrangell Mountains there, and marginal VFR down for the Kenai Peninsula, eastern central Kenai Peninsula, Resurrection Bay. Marginal for Kodiak Island, marginal for the Alaska Peninsula, marginal for the Aleutians, southern and western Bering Sea, marginal VFR now all the way up to about Gamble there on St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, really nice here over the eastern Bering Sea, west coast, interior, Arctic coast, north slope. Good VFR even in the Gulf of Alaska. That changes for Friday morning. Area IFR slipping westward here into the eastern Gulf of Alaska and improving over the southern panhandle. Some areas trending toward VFR toward Friday morning. IFR, northern half of the southeast coast. Lowest conditions in the interior still in the southeast. VFR, Kuskokwim, Togiak Bay, Bristol Bay, right on up to the eastern Arctic coast. IFR now showing up right along the western Arctic coast there. Point Lay maybe, Wainwright, through the Bering Strait and down across St. Lawrence Island in the IFR zone now. Remainder of the Bering Sea, marginal VFR, as well as the Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula. And improving though, but still some areas of marginal VFR, but still a slow improvement here for both the eastern Aleutians and the peninsula there. And stays VFR here along and off the southwest coast. St. Lawrence Island back into VFR in the afternoon Friday. IFR now a band after moisture lifting out of the panhandle there, leaving VFR behind for the southeast coast. IFR up along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, up to the Talkeetna Mountains, eastern Kenai Peninsula, Whittier, Portage, down to Seward, and into possibly as far south as Ozinki, definitely for Fognac Island there, and western interior, really nice. For passes tomorrow, Anatuvik, VFR, Adigan, VFR, Lake Clark and Merrill, looking good. Both VFR flying for those passes as well as rainy, all the western Alaska Range. Central Alaska Range as well, looking really nice for the day Thursday, windy VFR. Isabel, VFR. Mintesta, though, call it marginal at times, mostly marginal throughout the day on Thursday. And for Tanita, we get out of the way, VFR there. And for Portage, IFR, early on becoming marginal VFR in the afternoon, maybe even could break out to VFR in the late afternoon. And for Chilkoot and White, IFR. And for the freezing levels, at the surface here, up into Prince William Sound and right across the Kenai Peninsula down into Shelikof Strait, right across the northern panhandle, and 2,000 feet nudging northward there to Prince of Wales Island. Otherwise, out to the west here, that cold air coming southward, way to the south, pushes the surface off the map there, and back to the north a little bit here, out to the west there, but 2,000 feet still way off the chart. And for the icing, none out west here. Interior, none until you get down to Kenai Peninsula, eastern Kenai Peninsula here, North Gulf Coast. Maybe some isolated moderate rime icing possible. That lifting into the southeast interior a little bit there, central Copper River Basin. The heaviest icing, if it should occur, would be here over the northern panhandle. Could be considerable moderate there. Looking at the jet stream, southwest winds, 105 knots there across Yakutat. Northerly winds up to 105 knots across the eastern Aleutians, 9,000 feet. Strongest winds here into the eastern North Gulf Coast there. As you can see, 60 to 70 knots. Lighter winds now out of the northeast back here to the west. Same thing at 3,000 feet, although still about 40 knots there, right west of Cape Newenham, 50 knots into the panhandle. Turbulence. Moderate turbulence, central, southern, southeast coast, light tide, isolated moderate turbulence. Cook Inlet, Shelikof Strait, Alaska Peninsula.
Kind of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the stratus starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated Earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information and crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision-making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES-17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES-S will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Starting out with today's sea ice edge, sea ice analysis showing the ice edge has come southward over the last several days with those cold northerly winds, and it'll probably do so for the next day or two anyway, but no chance at all of it reaching the Pribilofs, at least over the next week or so. And moving on to coastal water forecasts for the southeast coast, pretty easy one tomorrow. Gale warnings, south winds 35 knots, and for Clarence Strait in the inside waters, southern inside waters down in here, southeast winds 35 knots, southeast 30, gusts 45 for Stevens Passage. Lynn Canal, south winds 30 knots with higher gusts. And for Friday, lighter winds over the inside waters there with south to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, seas 3 to 4 feet. Small craft advisories here, central and south coast, southeast winds 25 knots, and for the north coast, east southeast winds 30 to 40 knots. Prince William Sound for Thursday, east winds 20 knots, seas 4 feet. East to southeast winds 20 knots for the eastern North Gulf Coast. East winds 20 knots for the western North Gulf Coast. Southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, north winds 25 knots. Northern Cook Inlet, north winds at 20 knots. And for the day on Friday, look for gale warnings for Southern Cook Inlet and Kamishak Bay, northeast winds 40 knots. Gale warnings for the Barren Islands for northeast winds at 35 knots. Western North Gulf Coast, northeast at 30. And gale warnings also for the eastern North Gulf Coast. East winds 40 knots in the forecast. And for Prince William Sound, east winds increasing to 30 knots with seas building to 7 feet. Kodiak Island, north to northwest winds 20 to 25 knots for the day on Thursday, 5 to 6 foot seas. And here the Alaska Peninsula, north winds at 30 knots, north winds 20 knots there for Bristol Bay with seas at about 3 feet. And then for Friday, we've got gale warnings for Kodiak Island for north winds at 35 knots, seas 10 to 12 feet. Otherwise, Bristol Bay, north winds at 20 knots, and the Alaska Peninsula, north to northwest winds 20 to 25 knots with 4 to 8 foot seas. And for the western Aleutians here, west to Adak, winds will be northwest tomorrow at 20 to 25 knots. About the same here for Adak and Atka, northwesterlies at 25 knots, and north winds at 30 knots for the Fox Islands with seas running 6 to 13 feet. Then for Friday, eastern Aleutians, north to northwest winds at 25 knots, west-northwest 20 to 25 knots for Adak and Atka, and from Chitka Island, winds northwest at 20 knots, Kiska to Shemya, south to south or west to southwest winds at 25 knots with seas running 7 feet. For the southwest coast, north winds here 15 to 30 knots for the day tomorrow, north 25 for the Pribilofs. Variable winds 20 knots there, northern Bering Sea and St. Matthew Island. 15-knot winds out of the north for Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island. And for Friday, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta coast, all light northerly winds in the forecast. North 25 still for Kamishak Bay, for not Kuskokwim Bay, actually along the coast here, south of Nunivak Island on the southwest coast, north 25. North of 20 for the Pribilofs, northwest 15 for St. Matthew Island. And for the Arctic coast tomorrow, south winds 10 to 15 knots, and for the Chukchi Sea, south winds at 10 knots. For Friday, we've got south to southeast winds, 10 to 20 knots here for the Chukchi Sea. Otherwise, the western Arctic coast, southwest at 20 knots, central coast, southwest at 15, and south to southeast winds at 10 knots for the eastern coast. For tonight, we've got this system rolling northward here in the warm front, bringing rain into the southern panhandle, snow possibly heavy at times up around Lynn Canal and Klondike Highway, Haines to Skagway, and into the eastern North Gulf Coast. Areas of snow that lightens up as you head west, cutting off here over Prince William Sound, the southern Copper River Basin. Occasional snow or snow showers for Kodiak Island, and clearer and colder over the interior. Cold again tomorrow over much interior Alaska. Wet for the Panhandle. Chance of snow for the North Gulf Coast and the eastern Copper River Basin. Less in the way of snow showers for the eastern Aleutians, along with lighter winds out in this area. And then for Friday, still dry, cold temperatures, northern, western part of the state. A little breezy with snow showers for the Alaska Peninsula. Next system trying to push rain into the Panhandle late in the day.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.